Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Minister. I bring the bag upstairs to the delegation.
Mucho gusto. Es un honor.
Very good to see you.
I have to give you the badge officially.
Yes, thank
For
you
you
so
as
much.
well. Afterwards, there's no worries. It's all
Ambassador,
Il est anxieux, quoi. va?
Ça va bien?
Il y a du monde, non?
Un petit peu, ouais. Une petite visite ou quoi? Fac.
Fac à l'étranger.
By car or?
Good morning, Vice President.
What you're doing here so early. Good morning. Well, today, as always, we have a busy agenda. We will start by Ukraine war. We'll study how to continue supporting military Ukraine. We will discuss about a new tranche of the European Peace Facility to provide more funding for Ukraine. And then we will discuss about the level of military support after the Ramstein meeting, which, by the way, it was a lot of commitments in Ramstein, a lot of commitments by several member states, both from the point of view of the number of resources engaged. So we will discuss about the situation in the war. We will have Dmytro Kuleba, who will discuss with us. Then we are going to receive at the lunchtime the Palestinian Prime Minister, and we will discuss how to engage more with the Palestinian Authority and the situation on the ground, which is certainly very, very, very much worrisome. How to work better and more with the Palestinian Authority in this difficult time for them. The Sahel, the last news are not good. The terrorist is spreading to the Gulf of Guinea, and Burkina Faso have asked for the French troops to leave, so Sahel will be also in the agenda. And this is, many other things, Ethiopia, but the most important, as always, is going to become the war in Ukraine.
How about the terrorists in Iraq? Over the past several months, there was so many Daesh activity in Iraq, Kurdistan region, so they have been attacking city, village, so many people died. So does it concern you?
Certainly will concern me, but I want to explain to you what is in the agenda of the Council today.
New section against Iran on the agenda today. So,
Yes, it's going to be discussed.
Mr. Borrell, the European Parliament asked you, for the European Union, put the IRGC in the terrorist list, and on the other side, the Iranian counterpart, Mr. Amir Abdollahian, also stated that if this is the case, Iran will withdraw from the NPT. What is your reaction to both sides?
Well, look, there are many interesting opinions about that, but it is something that cannot be decided without a court decision first. You cannot say, I consider you a terrorist because I don't like you. It has to be when a court of one member state issue a legal statement, a concrete condemnation, and then we work at the European level. But it has to be first a court decision.
Mr. Biden, I want to ask you about your visit in Georgia, because we have information that you are planning to arrive in Georgia. When this visit will be, and what will be your
My visit to Georgia?
Sorry?
You asked for my visit to Georgia?
Yes. Is it true?
Well, it's not in the agenda, but we will discuss about the situation in the Caucasus.
Could you tell me when you will discuss about the Daesh activity?
Well, I tell you, today is not in the agenda.
But when?
I don't know.
On Iran, can you tell us what can still be done for Iran? For the situation in Iran, can you tell us what can still be done from the EU side?
In Iran, we are going to discuss new personal sanctions according with the legal framework on human rights. But as a terrorist organization for the Revolutionary Guard, I repeat, it has to be first a condemnation for a court in one member state.
Germany does not want to deliver tanks, but they agreed to actually grant other member states permission to deliver German tanks. What do you think about this?
Well, in Ramstein it has been a very good result from the point of view of the number of arms that the different member states decided to provide to Ukraine. Don't dismiss the result of Ramstein. A lot of good decision has been taken. And then each member state decides at this national level what they want to do. But Germany has engaged a lot with a big amount of resources. About this issue of the tanks, this is not the only thing that has to be discussed. Many other contributions from member states to the support, to the military support in Ukraine has been taken.
But the tanks seem to be crucial for President Zelensky in
Yes, President Zelensky is asking for it. The different member states have different opinions. We will discuss about it today.
But can you explain yourself to German reluctance when it comes to the delivery?
Look, it's not my role to do that. I said several times that from my personal opinion, I think this kind of arms should be provided to the Ukrainian army. But this member state decision, and we are here to discuss about it.
Are you positive there's going to be consensus over another tranche of funds?
About?
Are you positive there's going to be consensus over another tranche of funds for the European Space
I hope we will reach a political consensus. Today, no formal decision will be taken, but I hope that a political consensus will be reached. But I don't know. Thank you.
I would use the opportunity.
So, good morning to everyone. The main topic on our agenda today is again the Russian aggression on Ukraine. We will continue to discuss how we can set up our support to Ukraine. When it comes to Croatia, I will mention our readiness to keep assisting Ukraine, especially in the area of demining, rehabilitation and recovery. And I will also mention the importance of stability of our wider neighborhood, including Western Balkans. I will brief my colleagues about my recent visit to Montenegro. I urge to take seriously the European message on the functionality of the Constitutional Court and their controversial law on president. We need Montenegro, we need stable Montenegro, clearly oriented towards European values, and we hope that Montenegro will overcome this political crisis on its and continue its European path. In this context, I will mention developments in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Until recently, the country was facing a deep political crisis, but our prudent approach has led to a more stable situation, enabling the multinational, multi-confessional country to get a candidate status. And of course, Croatia has given an important contribution to these efforts, and we welcome very much its positive outcome. Of course, it's up to political leaders there and future EU-oriented government to start with reforms in order to fulfill the needed criteria. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question for the Russian story of Russia.
So we will discuss it. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you make a brief comment?
Well, just to say there's a very active agenda today on the Foreign Affairs Council, beginning with a presentation from the IAEA in terms of nuclear safety in the nuclear plants in Ukraine, and looking forward to Director General Grozny's presentation to us at breakfast. Significant discussions on the Middle East, and we'll have presentations from the Palestinian Prime Minister and Foreign Minister. Obviously, significant debate on Ukraine, new tranche of the peace facility. Looking forward to the communication and presentation from Foreign Minister Kaluba in respect to the up-to-date position there. And obviously then discussions on Iran, Afghanistan, and quite a number of other issues also.
Taoiseach, do you think that should permit the export of battle tanks to Ukraine. There's been a lot of debate last week and over the weekend. It looks like from your colleague Annalena Baerbock's intervention last night that they won't stand in the way of other countries. But I mean, just from what you know of the conflict and how important it is to give Ukraine the firepower before a potential spring offensive by Russia, do you think it's time that such weaponry was sent to Ukraine?
Well, to be fair, I think Germany has been a very strong supporter of Ukraine and continues to be one of the most significant supporters of Ukraine, along with the United States and the United Kingdom and France and others, and I think that has to be acknowledged. And it's a matter fundamentally for the German government, but I do believe the German government is working with other governments, and these issues I think will be resolved in due course, and there's a lot of engagement going on. So it's a matter for the judgment of the German government.
Just on that issue, Ireland has consistently offered support, but non-lethal because of our neutral status. But in the light of the debate we've had on the Ukraine war, given that this isn't two combatants who went to war with each other, is there not a moral argument now for setting the neutrality issue to one side and giving Ukraine more lethal support? It's not simply that these are two countries that went to war with each other and Ireland is neutral in that regard. This is a different kind of conflict.
Well, we're not neutral in terms of the war, in the sense that this is an invasion, it's an act of aggression which contravenes the United Nations Charter and is causing immense harm and death and destruction to the people of Ukraine. There's two issues here. Military neutrality is an issue and it's not something that can be just put to one side, but also we don't have capacity militarily, let's be honest about that, and that is also a key factor. So we focused in on where we can be of the greatest assistance, both in terms of the political side, where we were one of the leaders in terms of supporting Ukraine's application to join the European Union. Secondly, in terms of accountability and bringing accountability for Russian aggression, and we're working with other countries in terms of an interim court at The Hague to bring Russia to accountability insofar as we can, and other mechanisms internationally around accountability. Ireland has been very strongly supportive of. Humanitarian dimension is key also, and we've played a very strong role in that in terms of the number of Ukrainians who've come to Ireland for shelter and for refuge from a terrible war, and also then in terms of facilitating the European Peace Facility, where we've been strong supporters in facilitating that, which I think has been the most significant input from the European Union in respect of contribution to both military and non-lethal supports to Ukraine.
Taoiseach, if I could, you're meeting the Palestinian Prime Minister later today. Do you back the call for Israel to pay compensation for the destroyed aid that was given to help Palestinians?
I do indeed. I don't think it's acceptable that on an ongoing basis the European Union is contributing very significant aid to Palestinians and to Palestinian infrastructure for it to be habitually destroyed, and there should be recompense when that happens. And we also believe that the ongoing settlement issue, and particularly Nasser Arafat, is not acceptable in terms of the mass expulsion of people, essentially. And that is, in our view, unacceptable from a humanitarian perspective, is provocative, and in our view is not conducive to developing a process that could ultimately lead to a two-state solution. And Ireland has been consistently in favour of a two-state solution, but the facts on the ground now are making that very difficult.
And is the support there among the other EU member states for the EU to formally request that compensation?
Well, as you know, there's a fragmented position within the EU 27 in respect of the Middle East peace process and in respect of the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and but we will work with others to see what we can do to put pressure on in respect of that specific issue, and then more broadly in respect of a moderate approach to moving in a realistic and genuine way towards a two-state solution.
And just on the Northern Ireland Protocol, things have gone pretty quiet. What's your latest understanding of the talks that are going on? Well,
I think the issues are challenging, and I think the engagement is important. I think we all welcome the fact that the EU negotiating team and the United Kingdom's negotiating team have been engaging and continue to engage. on the issue, and we would hope that those negotiations would be successful, but they are very challenging, both for the UK government and for the European Union side. So I've never understated the challenges that face them, but the important aspect of this is that they are talking, and I do believe they should be allowed space to continue the negotiations.
Do you think they're getting close?
So you used the phrase quiet. In terms of negotiations, that's no bad thing. So I'm not going to add any commentary other than to say that it's good that there's engagement.
And can I ask, we're coming towards the second anniversary of Brexit. Looking ahead to the relationship between the UK and the EU, how do you see that evolving? Do you think it will become closer? What would you like to see?
I would like to see it become stronger and closer because of the huge geopolitical issues facing the world and Europe and the United Kingdom. So the war in Ukraine is one such clear issue where there's been a strong alliance between the United Kingdom's approach and the European Union's. The energy crisis, the migration crisis, the hunger crisis now across the world. So all of that demands, in my view, very strong harmony between the United Kingdom and the European Union, along with the United States and other like-minded democracies, and indeed other regions across the world. And that is why, in my view, it's imperative that we resolve the issues around UK-EU trade and the protocol. And also then in terms of developing the British-Irish relationship. Also, we had a very good meeting last week with the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Chris Heaton-Harris, and his team, and Minister Graham Roberts, and discussing issues around energy and indeed cyber security. So one of the more substantive British-Irish Intergovernmental Conferences, which is an institution under the Good Friday Agreement, and we want to see that develop more strongly. And so a lot does rest on resolving the issue around the protocol, but the issues are very big now facing the world, and very, very challenging. And that is why I believe it's important that we have constructive, harmonious relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union.
And can I just add very briefly, could you ever see, some people in the UK want to see Britain obviously rejoin the European Union, maybe the single market or the customs union. Could you ever see that actually happening?
Well, again, I think that the decision has been taken by the British people. My sense of, in my engagement with all British politicians, is that they've accepted that decision, they're working on that decision. So I think the context, I don't see that context arriving back anytime soon. So we've got to deal with the realities on the ground now. Brexit has happened. So we have to create, the relationships now have to be based on that reality.
Can I just ask you about the CAMS report on mental health and children?
I think it's unacceptable, very, very concerning, and I think there has to be, and is an ongoing review in terms of what has happened, but also that every child, the HSE has said they've engaged with every child that was not catered for adequately by the CAMS service, but also I think we have to look at governance issues again in respect of the mental health services. A lot of investment has gone in over the last decade or so. There's been significant investment in child and adolescent centres. The numbers going forward for treatment has increased very significantly. The referrals have increased very significantly, but still no child should be lost in the system. So very serious issues, and I know the Minister is very focused on that, and I think the reviews have highlighted that now.
Josh, this seems to be just one part of a much bigger issue with mental health care in Ireland. I mean, if someone's having a mental health crisis, they often the only help they can possibly get is to go into an overcrowded emergency department, which is completely inappropriate in terms of care. We only have 3 publicly funded anorexia beds. I mean, don't you think that this is unacceptable? And what has gone wrong? I mean, you're a former health minister, Taoiseach. What has gone wrong here?
I think there's been historic issues around mental health. This is in particular areas. And I haven't seen the detail of this report yet, but there is indications that it's focusing on specific areas. In terms of some specialist areas. There has been progress in certain areas, certainly in terms of where we were and where we've come from. And also, there has to be a stronger focus on primary care and community-based mental health care. Historically, Irish mental health care was too institutionalised, and there was a certain tardiness in moving towards more primary and community care-based models. Too much emphasis on acute care within mental health. But we've made a lot of progress in 20 years compared to where we were as a country in respect of mental health, but clearly not good enough in respect of the report that has just been published.
You better go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is the first Foreign Affairs Council meeting this year, so we have a lot of topics on our agenda. We will also have a meeting with the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, a very important discussion on nuclear safety in Ukraine. In fact, Ukraine will be the most important topic on our agenda. But before briefly speaking about Romania's positions on the topics on the agenda, I would like to remind the fact that today I will also use the opportunity, even if the Foreign Affairs Council is not having on the agenda the Schengen accession of Romania, I will use the opportunity today to have discussions with my colleagues on the continuation of our demarches towards Romania's accession, because it is very important to keep the topic in the attention of all European partners. On Ukraine, today I will express support for the adoption of the seventh tranche of the European Peace Facility. It is very important to reach consensus on this issue. I will also express firm support of Romania for adoption of the 10th package of sanctions that we very much support. And I will express once again the support of Romania for the creation of an international tribunal to punish the crime of aggression related to the conflict in Ukraine. Last week, the European Parliament adopted an important resolution in that regard, and I have expressed Romania's support for this resolution. Then I will also inform about the latest evolutions regarding the multidimensional support of Romania for Ukraine. For instance, more than 11.2 million tons of grain and other agricultural products have transited Romania in order to help Ukraine and at the same time to cope with the food crisis at the global level. I will also express support for the peace formula proposed by President Zelensky, and of course there are many other aspects which will be discussed together with our colleague Minister Kuleba. At the same time, we will discuss about the mission which is created by the European Union in Armenia. I will welcome the establishment today of this mission, which is very important because it will monitor the situation at the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This mission is the result of a proposal which I made after the tour, which I made together with other two foreign ministers, colleagues, European colleagues, in June 2021 in South Caucasus. We will discuss also together with the Prime Minister of Palestine today about the relationship between EU and Palestine, about the latest evolutions between Palestine and Israel, and I will reiterate our full support for the two-state solution. At the same time, we will discuss Iran, and I will also express on behalf of Romania the full condemnation for the gross violations of human rights which are taking place in Iran. And on this occasion, I will express support for the adoption of the fourth package of sanctions on human rights, which Romania also co-sponsored. Thank you so much.
Questions, please, very quick. For Russia, Ukraine, are you worried that the war to turn to an atomium war and nuclear war?
Well, we hope it is not the case. I have noticed that the so-called nuclear rhetoric of Russia did not continue with the same intensity recently. And I hope that the messages of the international community, the strong messages which are given to the Russians from all corners of the world, will allow Russia to have a responsible attitude.
I want to ask you about, can you please? Thank you. I'm Georgian Public Broadcasting Corporation correspondent. You helped Georgia and Moldova to fill the questionnaires. So in the end of the month, European Commission should publish the assessment of these answers. So regarding to the different media outlets, Georgia will have the best assessment compared to Ukraine and Moldova. So in such case, how do you think this assessment will help Georgia to receive candidate status? What's your position?
Well, of course, we cannot prejudge the result of the assessment by the European Commission, which will be presented this spring. We do hope that the Georgian authorities have taken very seriously the task of fulfilling the necessary reforms, taking the necessary measures in order to respond to the benchmarks which were indicated in the 17th of June 2022 opinion of the Commission. And I hope that this assessment helpful will be a sort of roadmap for further reforms, as it will be probably the case also for the other countries which are being assessed, like Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. We have today a very important Foreign Affairs Council, and of course Ukraine will very much dominate today's debate. Finland has just decided on a new military support package to Ukraine worth of 400 million euros. This is our biggest package, and this raises our military support to Ukraine to the level of 600 million euros. Of course, this morning is also very important. We will meet the leader of the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Organization, Mr. Grossi, and we'll discuss about the issues like Zaporizhzhia nuclear safety and others. And of course, today's topics include Sahel as well, and it's a very important debate.
Finland has agreed to deliver tanks to the Ukraine, but have you sent a letter for permission to Germany already?
We are still in the process of looking what kind of package will be formed. Of course, we hope that it's a package where countries like Germany could participate, and we have some of these Leopard tanks, and we have said that we will be part of the ecosystem, whatever it means. It can be training of the drivers, it can be training of the service personnel, it can be spare parts, it can be a couple of tanks, but we have to see how the package will be formed.
What do you think about the German position that they would actually allow you and other member states to send German tanks to Ukraine, but they themselves, they don't want to send their tanks?
Well, every country, of course, have their own policy and own resource. I don't want to go deeper to that. We take care of our own position, and really our 400 million military package that we just gave is something that Ukraine has been asking for. I think this tank debate also includes the factor that it's a longer timeline that we speak about this issue, and it's important that Ukraine gets that material that it needs now immediately, including the air defense and so forth. It's important that countries are delivering also rapidly.
Finland and Sweden try to be member of the NATO, and Turkey, they have some request. Do you think the Kurdish, they may be paid for the price for this?
Well, this is of course a very unfortunate situation that both Finland and Sweden are still waiting for the ratification, both from Hungary and from Turkey. We have this tripartite working group that is where we are discussing with Turkey, and we hope that this tripartite group will meet soon this year. Previous year it met both in Helsinki and in Stockholm. And I hope that these issues will be solved. And of course, it's a very crucial issue for the security of Finland and Sweden.
But how about the Kurdish? Do you think in Finland, Kurdish, there are so many Kurdish also in Finland?
Well, we have around 10,000 Kurds, and of course we communicate with them, and things looks to be quite calm.
Minister, you are scheduled to visit Iraq. What's on your agenda to visit Iraq?
Well, I have been visiting earlier Iraq systematically and having maintained a contact to the government, also to the new government of Iraq. And of course, Iraq is a crucial country in the region. We followed the previous Baghdad process very closely. Iraq was the country who could get the parties together in the region, so Iraq can play diplomatically a very important game in that region.
On Iran, please, can you tell us what it would achieve if the Revolutionary Guard is put on the terror list?
Well, we are very concerned, of course, of the human rights situation in Iran, and we have reacted to each and every death sentence, death penalty, very strongly. We have a strong civil society movement also in Finland who is paying attention to this, and particularly the role of the women in Iran, the very unfortunate violence that is used against the young protesters, the women protesters and so forth. And this is what we have been communicating regularly to Iran. And in addition to this human rights situation, we are concerned about Iran's delivery of weapons to Russia, to support Russia against Ukraine. And of course, we would like Iran to join as soon as possible to the commitments of the JCPOA. So these are our messages to Iran.
There are several member states which have the tanks that Ukraine is asking for, but not all of them have agreed to deliver them yet. Don't you think there is a risk that this sends a very ununited signal to Ukraine, to the European Union?
Well, so far, of course, European Union has been very effective delivering the military aid, and if I'm looking at the European Peace Facility, it has been working in an excellent manner, and this just shows that our own delivery of weapons worth of 400 million euros just now shows that this mechanism is functioning. And of course, we know that Ukraine needs even more, and this is the topic that we are discussing now with all European member countries. Thank you.
Just a quick minute, please. When do you think for the Russian-Ukrainian war, when do you think that we could say the war is close to finish? Do you still have hope that there is a peaceful solution, or it needs to be a forced solution?
Well, I think that United Nations is doing excellent work in first of all on the grain trade issue. Secondly, the work that Mr. Grossi is doing on the nuclear safety issue around Zaporizhzhia and so forth. And of course, there has been this exchange of the prisoners, which has been helped by Turkey and so forth. So these are the small lights I can see in the end of the tunnel, but unfortunately this can be a long war.
Giving a Leopard tank from Germany, don't you think that could change the situation or could turn it even to an atomic war?
I think it's important that we give the resources to Ukraine to defend themselves, and I think they are acting according to the UN Charter, Article 51. They have been attacked. They defend themselves. They have been asking help from the international community. We are helping them until UN Security Council solves the problem. And the problem is actually the UN Security Council, because Russia is using veto there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen, et hovedtema på mødet i dag bliver Ukraine, krigen i Rusland. Og det sker på baggrund af en situation, hvor man stadigvæk diskuterer i Europa, skal der sendes kampvogne afsted, og hvor tyskerne stiller sig på bagbenene. Hvad er det for en diskussion, I skal have? Hvordan er stemningen, når I skal ind i sådan en lokale med den uenighed?
Det er jo mit første rådsmøde som ny dansk udenrigsminister, og mit hovedbudskab i dag vil jo netop være, at vi nu skal støtte op omkring Ukraine. Der findes ikke noget, der er vigtigere lige nu i en kritisk fase at bakke op om Ukraine. Og jeg glæder mig også over, at den internationale støtte jo i øjeblikket er inde i et slags gearskifte. I sidste uge donerede vi 19 Cæsar-pjecer fra dansk side. Det var et kvalitativt stepping up. Og det sker rundt omkring i Europa. Jeg følger selvfølgelig også nøje den tyske debat, har hæftet mig ved, hvad den tyske udenrigsminister har sagt, og helt opmærksom på, at der er en tysk debat, men jeg er nu rimelig fortrøstningsfuld. Jeg mærker stærk støtte. Jeg havde i går lejlighed til at mødes med mine nordiske og baltiske kolleger, og også i den kreds er der stor støtte. nogle gange tager ting tid i Europa, men jeg tror, når man lægger det hele sammen, så sidder der en Putin i Moskva, som er overrasket over europæisk sammenhold og karakteren af den støtte, som den frie verden har ydet ukrainerne.
Altså, der er gået et år med den her krig, og der er et pres for en 10. må det vel snart være, sanktionspakke. Er det noget, I drøfter? Er det noget, der er undervejs, tror du?
Danmark har fra starten engageret sig stærkt i den her sag. Det gjorde vi i øvrigt også før krigen brød ud, har været engageret i at opbygge det ukrainske demokrati. Og også hele tiden stået på det hold, der synes, at vi skal sanktionere. Og ja, vi presser også på for en 10. sanktionspakke. Den falder ikke på plads i dag, men vi kommer rimeligvis til at diskutere det.
Og når vi taler om sanktioner, så er sanktioner mod Iran også på dagsordenen. Hvordan kommer det til at ske?
Situationen i Iran har udviklet sig fra slemt til noget værre med de henrettelser, vi har set. Senest jo er også en britisk statsborger, og det kalder på vores stærkeste fordømmelse, og vi presser også på for sanktioner. Og jeg er også ret sikker på, at vi i dag får lavet det bliver så en 4. sanktionspakke i forhold til Iran på hele menneskerettighedsspørgsmålet. Så er Iran jo også sanktioneret for deres støtte i virkeligheden til russerne, altså de iranske droner, der har været brugt mod den ukrainske civilbefolkning. Så jeg vil tro, at vi kommer på plads med en 6. sanktionspakke, og Danmark vil være blandt de lande, der presser på her.
Så du forventer sanktioner mod Iran?
Ja, jeg forventer helt klart sanktioner mod Iran i dag. Jeg er ikke sikker på, at de bliver de sidste. Altså, der er jo hele spørgsmålet om den iranske revolutionsgarde. Burde man terrorliste dem? Det er et komplekst spørgsmål, også juridisk. Det tror jeg ikke falder på plads i dag, men også den sag, der bevægelse i. Men der kommer sanktioner i dag.
Og så er der en diskussion hjemme i Danmark om syriske børn. Står du hen?
Det er jo en af de sager, som ikke blev diskuteret i bund, da vi forhandlede regeringsgrundlaget. Og jeg har ligesom andre jo set TV2's reportager hen over weekenden. Jeg kan sige om den sag, at den har nu været drøftet i regeringen. Og vi er enige om i regeringen nu at bede de relevante myndigheder, og dem er der en del af for at få belyst den her sag, om, hvad skal man sige, at opdatere beslutningsgrundlaget. Det arbejde er sat i gang, og når vi har et opdateret beslutningsgrundlag, jamen så vil regeringen træffe en regeringsposition i den her sag.
Minister, good morning.
Krmilja po slovensko, ne? Ja, dobro jutro. Ja, danes na zasedanju zunanjih ministrov bom predvsem izkoristila priložnost za poročilo po obisku Črne Gore, kjer sva že decembra s kolegom Schallenbergom in je še januarja govorila z vrhom države, predvsem kako čim prej zaključiti imenovanje sodnikov za ustavno sodišče. Gre namreč za hudo institucionalno in politično krizo v državi. Postopki so stekli, kar je bilo spodbudno, in zdaj seveda čakamo do začetka februarja, da bi država res zaključila uspešno. Od tega je odvisen tudi rezultat oziroma legitimnost predsedniških volitev, napovedane so za marca in pa najverjetneje tudi predčasnih parlamentarnih volitev. Torej Črna Gora, ki je v fokusu, bo danes tudi na dnevnem redu. Bom pa izkoristila tudi priložnost za kratko poročilo z obiska v Sarajevu in pa na Kosovu. Danes bomo sicer govorili veliko o Ukrajini, tudi Palestini. Še predtem bom imela tudi pogovora z gospodom Lajčakom in Varheljem, pa tudi ob robu zasedanja z italijanskim zunanjim ministrom Tajanijem. S Tajanijem predvsem ob novi situaciji, ob vstopu Hrvaške v šengensko območje, bova pogledala, kakšne so zdaj razmere na naših notranjih mejah in po potrebi govorila tudi o kakšnem okrepljenem policijskem sodelovanju, če bo seveda za to interes vseh strani. Kar zadeva Ukrajino, seveda nam bo poročal minister Kuleba, kot vedno. Odločali bomo o novem paketu 500 milijonov evrov pomoči, European Facility, podpora in pa seveda še dodatnih 45 milijonov za urjenje, pa seveda vedno tista obsodba glede razmer v Ukrajini. Prvič imamo tudi neformalno ob kosilu srečanje z zunanjim ministrom in pa premijejem Palestine. z zaskrbljenostjo spremljam razmere na palestinskih ozemljih, kjer je res veliko število civilnih žrtev, še nikoli ne tako veliko rušenje palestinskih objektov, razmere se močno zaostrujejo in danes bomo iz prve roke zvedeli, kakšna je situacija in pa seveda palestinsko stran prvič dali predvsem ljudstvu podporo in izrazili tudi pričakovanje, da bi čim prej izpeljali preložene volitve.
Mogoče najprej Črna Gora, kakšno bo to poročilo, je bil zadosten napredek, da ne bo treba nekih ukrepov proti Črni Gori, kakšno bo to vaše?
No, zdaj smo seveda v pričakovanju, ali bo Črna Gora uspela izpeljati to imenovanje manjkajočih sodnikov. Ustavno sodišče ta hip ne deluje. V začetku februarja upam, to je 6. poskus, če bi ta 6. poskus spodletel, je seveda velika nevarnost, da Črna Gora resno skrene s svoje evropske poti, na to jo opozarjamo zaradi globoke politične krize, namreč brez ustavnega sodišča je težko si zamisliti primerne, pravične, poštene predsedniške in parlamentarne volitve, zato je ta poskus zdaj res ključen za napredek Črne Gore tudi na poti v Evropsko unijo.
Med prvim obiskom ste imeli celo možnost ustavitve pogajanj, kakšna je zdaj, kaj manj, mislim...
Tudi večkrat smo se pogovarjali, kako resna je ta možnost, zdaj obstaja seveda resna nevarnost, da bi lahko zaustavili tudi pristopna pogajanja, kar je seveda nekaj, česar si nihče ne želi. Tudi jaz ne Evropska unija, zato toliko res pomagamo državi, da bi izpeljala te nujne korake.
In English, could you tell us something about today's meeting? What are you expecting?
Just one question more, please, yeah.
Torej, če ne bo tega imenovanja, potem bo EU razmislila o zaustavitvi pristopnih pogajanj?
V tem trenutku ne želim govoriti o tem, kar je pričakovanje usmerjeno in postopki so stekli, imamo res veliko kandidatov, potekajo zaslišanja kandidatov za sodnike, presenetljivo, bistveno več jih je v tem krogu kot kadarkoli prej. To kaže na zavedanje v Črni Gori, da je treba ta korak izpolniti. Tako da zaenkrat ne govorimo o scenariju B, ker je pričakovanje, da Črna Gora res ta korak izpolni, tudi zato, ker so razpisane marca predsedniške volitve.
Mogoče še tukaj pričakujete od srečanj z gospodom Malajčakom in Varheljem?
Z obema se bom predvsem pogovarjala o razmerah na Zahodnem Balkanu. Vsi iščemo poti, kako na eni strani pomagati Črni Gori, kakšne so razmere v Bosni in Hercegovini. Mislim, da oba sogovornika zanima predvsem, kako ocenjujem stanje v regiji. Po mojem obisku v Bosni in Hercegovini Slovenija res aktivno sodeluje ne samo zdaj s statusom kandidatke, ampak tudi kako državi na tej poti, ki je pred njo, da začne pristopna pogajanja, pomagati z neko strokovno pomočjo pri pripravi na ta korak. Tako da tudi glede Kosova in Srbije se bomo zagotovo pogovarjali, glede na to, da se tudi tam razmere ne bi rekla zaostrujejo, trenutno so mirne, pa vendarle aprila bi morali na severu Kosova izpeljati volitve in seveda pogoji za to danes verjetno še niso vzpostavljeni in prisotnost naša v regiji in naše sodelovanje sta izjemno pomembna.
Še zadnje vprašanje glede srečanja z gospodom Tajanjem. Zakaj se tukaj zavzema Slovenija? Omenili ste vstop Hrvaške v Schengen, kakšne so zdaj sploh razmere v bistvu, kaj se je s tem spremenilo in pa kaj pričakuje od sodelovanja oziroma v okviru sodelovanja z Italijo.
Zdaj za Slovenijo je ključno seveda, da imamo čim boljši pretok na naših mejah, kar pomeni, da imamo zdaj varno zunanjo mejo Schengena, na drugi strani kratke čakalne vrste in da lahko tu naši organi, naše policije po potrebi ob večjem prihodu beguncev ali iskalcev, prosilcev azila seveda sodelujejo dobro. In v sodelovanju z Ministrstvom za notranje zadeve smo v stiku, z ministrom Tajanjem pripravljava tudi njegov uradni obisk v Sloveniji, predvidoma marca, in bova imela zagotovo danes priložnost predvsem na kratko pogledati, kaj se dogaja na mejah, ali so zadeve ustrezno varovane in če potrebujemo mogoče dodatno policijsko okrepljeno sodelovanje, bo Slovenija seveda to tudi ponudila. Hvala. Okay, sorry.
From today's meeting?
Today we have, first of all, a debate on Ukraine, which is, as always, a very important one, together with our Ukrainian colleague, Kuleba. I do expect that we will again condemn the brutal Russian aggression in Ukraine and also support the new tranche of European facility aid to Ukraine, around 500 million euros. I think it's very important to really help Ukraine as long as it is needed, and my country, Slovenia, is continuously doing so, especially when it comes to material humanitarian aid. We are present in Ukraine. We will also have an informal discussion with the Palestinian Prime Minister, Foreign Minister. The situation is very worrying. We see a lot of civilian deaths, tensions in Palestinian territories, and we will certainly express our support to Palestinian people and encourage them to conduct the elections when possible.
And also about Iran, you have a discussion.
For me, as I'm coming from the region of the Western Balkans, it's very important that I will address the situation in Montenegro, where I was recently with my Austrian colleague, because the country is in a political and institutional crisis, and I was there together with my Austrian colleague and the mandate of Josep Borrell. So we are trying to support country to really establish functional constitutional court, and there are elections coming, and put country back on the EU track, and also goes for the whole region of the Western Balkan. The discussion for us will be very important after Bosnia and Herzegovina got a status. With the support of Slovenia, we are trying to help the country with all the necessary reforms.
The situation in Iran.
Situation in Iran is absolutely something we have to carefully monitor. I'm very worried about what is happening with the peaceful protesters, with the death penalty, with people in the prison, and something that we really have to address with all seriousness, and I strongly condemn the situation when it comes to peaceful protesters, when it comes to women's rights. So I do hope that, and I do expect that we will do that with one strong voice.
Minister, do you have any explanation for the German reluctance when it comes to the delivery of Western main battle tanks to Ukraine? Do you understand this reluctance?
You know, I can just say that this is the question between Germany and the states that are holding these vehicles. Slovenia doesn't have them, but we are supporting every effort to stop the Russian aggression in Ukraine, and we are doing that according to what we can, mostly with material humanitarian aid as a country, and also in the past with military aid. But it's the question for Germany and the countries that are having those vehicles. Thank you. Hvala. Sorry. Quick comment.